Welcome to Sunday at MAGFest. I am Scott, one of two hosts of the Geek Nights podcast. My other host, Bargolden, didn't come to this panel, which is what you should do. Here I am alone in order to get my free badge to MAGFest. I am one of two hosts of a podcast called Geek Nights. If for some reason you like listening to me talk and want to do that more, I don't know why, but it's possible. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of me and my non-present co-host talking, recorded in MP3 format, available on the internet with no ads, at no charge. It's even Creative Commons license. You can remix us or something. I don't care. We've been doing this since 2005, and we've been doing convention panels like this even longer. And so there you go. If for some reason you don't like what's going on in this room, leave. You still can enjoy your last 1 hour of MAGFest playing pinball or something. Seriously. All right. Today we're going to talk about the 39 games you must play. These are not the 39 best games. So anyone out there who's like, hey, that game's not that good, good. Now I don't have to listen to you talk because I said this in the first slide. Okay, we just picked some. These aren't even 39 games. They're not in any particular order either. It's just a random assortment of games that we have enough to talk about, or at least I have enough to talk about, to fill the 1 hour and fulfill my requirement to get the free badge at MAGFest and entertain you on the Sunday when clearly there's nothing else going on because everyone's coming here. All right. We have done this panel before, or variations of it. We record panels, not this one today because I didn't bring all my equipment over here just for me, myself, but we've done this panel and a whole bunch of others before. So if podcasting isn't your thing, guess what? You can go to YouTube and you can just watch us do panels at other conventions and talk about this almost exact same thing. Or well, we did this one also at other different PAX. We mostly go to PAX and MAGFest these days, but we've been to other conventions before, anime cons and such. You can see us both instead of just seeing one of us. All right? And then you don't need to be here. You can go play pinball for the next hour and just watch on YouTube. Okay. These are not even our favorite games of all time. There are games that are my favorite games of all time that just aren't on the list at all, because what's the point of me just coming up here and telling you what I like and is my taste? If you don't share my taste, then you're just wasting your time in here, right? These are games that we can't stop thinking about. Every one of these games on this list has yeah, smart guy. Let's go. All right. These are games that have something interesting, something different, something unique, something special about them that is perhaps unique or just really gets us thinking, or that we keep going back to, right? As we podcast, give lectures, play games, we keep going back to these games and thinking about them and maybe remaking them, or who knows. There's something about them. And so there's something we can talk about each one to fill up an hour of time. All right, first game, Outlaw. This is a game for the Atari 2600, if you couldn't tell by the graphics. It is a game where two pretzel cows, someone has an Atari 2600 in the back, but do they have Outlaw? I don't know. It is a game where two pretzel cowboys try to shoot each other with guns, right? And now, two people trying to shoot each other with guns is like the most common thing of all of games. But the thing about this game that is unique is that there is the basic mode it has a lot of modes. The basic mode is where you shoot a bullet, they shoot a bullet, right? And you shoot one, and you only have so much ammo. And you can't just push the reload button to reload like freaking Counter-Strike. You only reload once the other person has completely run out of ammo as well. So if you can just trick the other person into shooting all their bullets, then they are defenseless, and now you can get into different offensive positions to try to attack them, whereas when both people have ammo, it's a little bit more standoffish. There really aren't games quite like this. It's a little bit like Breakout because you're dodging, or I guess it's the opposite of Breakout in Pong, because you're like a giant pretzel paddle trying to dodge the dot and let it go past you. But yeah, if you haven't played Outlaw, it's one of the few Atari 2600 games that like really holds up extremely well without lots of major annoyances. Okay, Vampiro Tag. This is a game that you kind of can't play anymore because these sorts of playgrounds don't exist so much anymore. If anyone still has one near them that hasn't been torn down, like that guy with his hand up. Okay, well then you can get people together and play Vampire Tag, and I will give you instructions on how to play Vampire Tag. What you must do is first get a bunch of nerds who want to play vampire tag. Then you must get some foam sticks, like from some LARPers or some crap, right? And then you got to make a cross, and you got to make a few stakes. And basically, vampire tag is a combination of tag, also a little bit of werewolf, who's the vampire, right? And also a little bit of floor is lava, don't touch the wood chips, right? And so anyone who touches the wood chips, they dead, right? No matter what, vampire or otherwise. You hide the stakes and the cross around in the playground somewhere. And then the vampire, he's trying to grab people and turn them into vampires. The other people are trying to find a stake and then kill the vampire with it. If they find a cross, they can't kill a vampire, but they can sort of, force the vampire to stay away, right? That sort of thing. It's just a really crazy mixed up tag. But the thing about vampire tag is that, you play it at night on a playground. You can't play it during the day. There's children there, right? You got to play it at night when it's abandoned, and you might risk the cops coming to harass you because you're on the parking in the playground at 1 a.m. But we played this in college, and the cops only harassed us one time. And right? So, but yeah, a unique form of tag that doesn't exist. This is Netrunner, Android Netrunner, a game that sort of still exists and someone's clapping for. This game ate some number of years of my life. I guess I played it when it came out, and I stopped playing it when they stopped supporting it, even though now I know there are fans who are supporting this game, like Project Nisei or whatever, but the community, at least in my area, sort of evaporated. But this is a game that was originally a CCG made by Richard Garfield, the Magic guy, in the 90s, and that version of the game still had the great essence that makes this game great. Honestly, a better game than Magic, probably. But obviously not nearly as popular, so it died. And then the Fantasy Flight Games brought the game back and remixed it and improved it in many ways. And it was not a huge hit that took over the world, but it's like this big deal amongst people who knew. And there was enough people playing it that, again, it ate my life for several years. I stopped playing it because I didn't want to go to the grave and have it say, "Here lies Scott. He played Netrunner for 50 years of his life and then died." All right? That's not great. But yeah, if you can play some Netrunner somehow, there's some online implementations with bad UI. You can go find that Project Nisei and just get some starter decks to play with your friends. There might not be the huge competitive scene with tournaments and all that stuff like there once was, but if you're a card game person, this is the card game, right? Period. Okay, this is Rim's game. He loves this game. Someone must know this game somehow. Most of you haven't heard of this game. This is a truly unique kind of game. It's a simulation game for the Super Nintendo where you run an airline, right? You have to you purchase gates. There's actually, Aerobiz Supersonic is actually the second one. There's just a game called Aerobiz. This is the better sequel that's improved, right? You get advice from, the people on your board of directors. You buy planes, you maintain the planes, you choose which routes to run. You can buy crappy Russian planes that fall apart. You can buy expensive Airbus planes that don't. You're trying to manage your giant airline budget. I don't think there's even a modern version. There's tons of simulation games out there these days. You got, Goat Simulator, Tractor Simulator, Race Track, Team Managers. There's no more Aerobizes, right? But on the Super Nintendo, of all places, you'd think this would be like a PC game. Nope, Super Nintendo game. Really unique game. This is a game you can play if someone's actually playing it. There's a lot of Tron games in the world, official Tron games. Most of them, honestly, disappointing, right? If there was a real world Tron where you could throw discs and ride bikes, that is all I would do. I would be okay if my grave said, "Here lies Scott, spent 50 years throwing discs and riding bikes, then died getting hit by a disc." I don't think I would last 50 years without getting hit by a disc, though. I'm not that fit, but I would do it anyway. Ricochet is the best disc-throwing, Tron, people-killing game that exists. And it's a Half-Life 1 mod, but it's also, is it free or is it $5 on Steam now? It's free for me back in 2000, whatever. This will still work on your computer. If you have Steam and you install Half-Life 1 and you find Ricochet on Steam and install it, it should run and work on a PC normally. It'll look like Half-Life 1, of course, but it should work. And if someone else actually joins a server, you can play Ricochet with them. It's really good. You can't really jump very much. All you do is move and throw disc. But when you step on those yellow triangles, the edges of the platforms, they're perfectly calibrated to where if you don't touch any buttons, you will land on the next platform safely. Of course, if you do touch buttons, you might just fall into the abyss and die, which is what's going to happen 90% of the time. But if you develop skills, you could do things like jump off a platform and land on the platform you just came from, land on a wrong platform, the one you weren't supposed to go to fool the opponent into throwing their discs away, pick up power-ups that let you throw triple discs, ice discs. You can right-click to do the special attack where you turn all 3 discs into like a deadly disc that just friggin' destroys someone. Because normal discs, when they hit someone, they just sort of nudge them because you're trying to nudge them into the abyss. But the chainsaw disc, it hits you, you're done. This is really fun. LAN party, I think, is the place. Because if you just try to play online with randos, no one's going to be there because it's a Half-Life 1 mod from 2000, whatever. Yeah, Ricochet is great. All right, Tigris and Euphrates. This is a game by the great Dr. Rainer Knizia. If you start looking at the board games you have and who designed them, you're gonna see Rainer Knizia's name show up a lot. And especially recently, a lot of his older games have been getting reprints. In the past year or two, he's been reprinting lots and lots of his games with newer themes, newer packaging, polished rules. This guy has made a crap ton of games, some of the most legendary board games ever. He might be like the Wayne Gretzky of board game making. But Tigris and Euphrates, in my opinion, is the best game he's ever made. Of all the board games we have, we play so many games, we play them so many times. This game does not lose its staying power, right? Thematically, mechanically, everything about this game is amazing. You play you think of Civilization games, and most of them are lots of complicated numbers, and you got to take turns. It takes hours and hours. If you're good at this game, you can play it in under an hour, and it gives you all that Civilization game action, but a lot simpler. All you're doing is putting tiles out on the board and moving your little wooden discs around to determine which leaders control which nations. Nations bump into each other, they have conflicts, and then they crumble. Sometimes there's internal conflicts where there's 2 leaders in the same nation and they fight and one of them gets booted out. You build monuments, you try to hold on to them, and then that nation spits out lots more victory points. The fun thing about this game is that there's 4 kinds of victory points. There's red, blue, green, and black. And in order to get a real victory point, you basically need to make a set of 4. So in effect, whichever color you have the least of is your actual score, right? So if you have 10 green, 10 blue, and 10 red, and 2 black, your score is 2 because you only have 2 full sets. And that's a lot of fun, right? I would recommend playing this for all advanced board game peoples. All right, DDR. All right. It's MAGFest. People like the music game at MAGFest. Yeah. So in college, early 2000s, the DDR was a thing, right? People had their little squishy pads and their PS1s or their third mixes, right? And I'm sitting there looking at them. I'm like, man, that's the stupidest thing I ever seen. I ain't doing that. And I'm hearing the music, and I'm like, all right, that's my kind of music, but that's still the stupidest thing I ever seen. I ain't doing this. And then I'm like, I can't really knock it if I haven't tried it, right? You got to try it at least once. Then I'll try it one time, and then I'll be able to say it's the stupidest thing I ever did, and no one can complain about it and say, Scott, you can't complain about DDR. You haven't tried it. And then I tried some DDR, and then I bought some DDR, and then I played a whole bunch of DDR. And then we would go to the boardwalk in New Jersey to play DDR and spend all our quarters in DDR. And then I got old, and I can't really play DDR anymore that well. I can play, but I can't play that well as I once did because I'm old. And also, they changed DDR a lot. I don't really like the newer ones so much. There's way too many arrows and holds and things. The other ones, at least for me, felt more musical, right? More dancey. But DDR is still amazing. Of all the rhythm games, this is still the rhythm game that makes the most sense. I played a few of them downstairs this MAGFest. There was a piano one. I didn't know what the heck was going on there because it was you could push a whole set of keys. It didn't really have to be the exact key. And there's some other ones with the touch screens, and it's what is happening? And why am I touching this dirty touch screen that everyone else touched? The Dance Rush one, I liked that one, but it was not very precise. I don't know. I can't figure that out. DDR is the one. Pump tries to add 2 arrows. That's fine, but is it necessary? I don't know. Or adds 1 arrow in the middle thing. Whatever. DDR is amazing. If you play any rhythm game, play DDR. If you don't play any rhythm game, play DDR one time, and then maybe you are allowed to make fun of it. All right. We like our puzzle games, right? We like a Tetris. We like a Puyo Pop. We like a Mean Bean Machine, a Panel de Pon, a Magical Drop. But nobody knows about the Battle Balls, and so that's why we keep bringing up the Battle Balls, because we really want someone to remake Battle Balls, right? This is a puzzle game which I have not seen anyone release a new version of, make a remake of, nothing. This is the only one I've ever seen. It's on the PS1. I've never seen it in an arcade. I don't know if there even is an arcade version. I guess I could have looked that up. But yeah, the way this game works is you get 3 balls and a little triangle, and you can rotate the balls, and you drop them, and then if there's balls, by the force of gravity, they might tumble downhill and form your playing area, and as you would expect, when enough balls of the same color are touching each other, they go poo, 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 and they disappear, and then balls fall down with gravity more so, and maybe a combo happens. Who knows? It's a puzzle game. But it's a really good puzzle game. It's really great when you play multiplayer versus. That's the best version of it, of course, because each character has different attacks. The best character is not depicted in the screenshot. It is the Mount Fuji. The Mount Fuji has a great attack. And, of course, the balls with the eyeballs in them are the ones that you get attacked with, and you have to eliminate them twice, once to get rid of the eyeballs and then again. And that's how you die, because you get too many eyeballs on your side of the screen and you can't clear them out. If you like a puzzly game, try to find battle balls, maybe like a PS1 illegal method of getting this game. I don't know. Okay. All right. Well, that went too backwards. Oh, no. Oh, no. At least we're getting some good energy on Sunday at MAGFest somehow. Okay. So there's a lot of racing games out there, right? You got your hyper-realistic ones, like your Gran Turismos or whatever. I don't know actually how realistic those are, because I'm not a car expert. But the hyper-realistic ones I find are not the most fun for normal people, because you just sort of either go too fast and go off the track and die, or you go too slow and lose, and it's really hard. And you also have the super not realistic ones, like the Mario Kart, which are fun for everybody, but they're too divorced from reality that you don't really feel like you're racing. It feel, especially with your blue shell, it feels a little bit like the items and stuff matter more than the racing sometimes, right? Initial D Arcade, there's a reason they got so many of them down there. There's a reason you got to wait to sit at them, is because this game strikes the perfect balance, plus it gets the Eurobeat music in there, which is essential, right? But it's the perfect balance between sort of a real racing game, but also not real, right? Cars don't actually drive like that, right? Drifting is not the fastest way down the mountain, I'm sad to say, in real life. But in Initial D Land, it absolutely is. But yeah, this is the funnest, craziest racing game. I wish I could, had more room and didn't live in a tiny apartment and I could, maybe get one. I don't know. But there it is. All right, Rim's favorite game of all time. Okay, some guy loves Advance Wars. That's awesome. If my co-host was here, you could challenge him to some Advance Wars. So in college, again, of course, right? Advance Wars came out on the GBA, which was the style of the time. And we were the only people playing Advance Wars. One person was in graduate school and played so much Advance Wars they didn't pass, and they had to stop and go get a job instead. My co-host got S rank on every single mission in all of Advance Wars. I was satisfied just to beat the game and be like, okay, I'm good. I like the DS one the most, just because it's got, the 2-screen action going on, plus all those extra characters and the anime stylings and whatnot. But there's been a lot of attempts, right, to make an Advance Wars, right, a simpler 2D turn-based tactical war combat-y game. There's a lot of, this has been tried to be done many times, but somehow they don't just capture the exact polish, the perfection, the flavor of the actual Advance Wars, right? And so, yeah, people got excited about it. So if you're one of those people who wasn't just excited for some reason, and you're like, what are these people on about? It was re-released as a thing that came out on the Switch recently, right? If you have a Switch, you can just go get this Advance Wars 1-2 thing, I guess. I didn't buy it because I have the GBA ones. Why would I spend money again? But there it is for you, non-GBA owners, to go and play. And you should. All right, this is a game that I don't even know if you can get this game anymore. Maybe it's on Steam or something. I don't know. We saw this at an indie games kind of thing, sort of like MAGFest, but it was in New York City, so it was even way smaller, like an evening get-together kind of deal where people demoed their games. And this game was a game the likes of which we hadn't really seen, and I guess I still haven't seen, in that this is a board game, right? This is not a video game, even though it technically is a video game because it's a piece of software. But it's a board game, and yet there is one element of the board game that is not board gamey, which is that there is platforming, right? So normally you play, say, a worker placement board game where it's I will choose to go to the sawmill where I can get wood this turn, and the other person says, I'm going to go to the granary and get grains this turn. Here, it goes 3, 2, 1, go. And you have to run and jump to get to the building that you want to go to, right? There's different rooms in the palace or the temple. And there's a certain room you want to go to. You got to get there before the other people get there from your starting position. So it gives a little bit of video game action in what would otherwise be some board gaming. So if you like board gaming, but you also can do some platforming, is this the greatest thing of all time? No, but it's really unique. I don't know too many other things like this. There you go, Sumer. All right, Super Metroid, everybody? Yeah, okay. Yeah. You guys, all right. I mean, normally I would downplay and say, hey, stop playing the Woo game, everybody. But you know what? If we can get any amount of Woos Sunday at MAGFest, that's a huge win. Okay. People, if you haven't played Super Metroid, like, you've seen this thing everywhere, right? It's all over the MAGFest. It's all over every speedrun thing. You've seen people playing randomizers. It's like, you've seen this game if you haven't played it. Maybe there's a reason that this game is everywhere, even though it's from 1990-something, right? Why people aren't all over it for no good reason. This is still probably the best Metroidvania game there is, right? The size of the map, right, is like just right. A lot of them, they're too small and the game is not really feeling very explory. Some of them, the maps are too big and you just get lost. This game, the map was just the right size. And when it came out, it was like the biggest there had been up to that time. And then in terms of, the game flow of exploring, seeing that you can't go somewhere because you don't have the right item, finding an item that lets you go that lets you break through and do new things and find new places. That game loop, right, was basically perfected here. And I don't think people have sort of equaled it because it's like a polished formula, but this is the first time that formula was like completely locked in exactly right in terms of the number of different items, the number of different things you can break through into new areas, defeat different enemies. It's all about Super Metroid. Plus, just the mood of the game, right? On a Super Nintendo with no cutscenes or anything. Well, not, barely any cutscenes, not any movies or anything. Unmatched. So, play Super Metroid once in your life, at least. Okay. Surround castle to stay alive. Oh, I started at 1 and it's a 120. All right, I might be going too fast. We can slow down. All right. Surround castle to stay alive. I wish someone brought this to the MAGFest arcade because the arcade implementation is the only really legit one. This is an old Atari game meant for using the trackball. You'll notice the arcade machine on the right has 3 trackballs, right? And this would be really easy if you could play this game with a mouse, but I have never seen that. There is a Super Nintendo version. Wow, it's hard to play. The way this game works is that you are one of the kingdoms, and maybe you're the red, blue. You can play with 3 players. Yellow would be the 3rd player. And you have castles, and you must surround castle to stay alive. You have to play Tetris with pieces, and you rotate the pieces, and they don't fall. You just sort of move them with the trackball, rotate them with a button, and slam them down with another button, and they become castle walls. And you're trying to completely enclose an area with no gaps. And if there are no gaps in your walls, you've surrounded, and that area in the middle of the walls gets a nice checkerboard indicating that it's your area. And you must have at least one of your castles or one of the castles surrounded completely in the checkerboard area, or you have lost. Okay. After you have surrounded some area, the game has a timer on this, by the way. You're racing the clock to surround a castle at least. It says, okay, we're done doing walls now. It's time to do cannons. Here's some cannons. And the more area you have, the more cannons they give you. And you can put the cannons in your area. Now, obviously, more cannons is better, obviously. But when you put cannons down, that's an area where you can't put walls. So you're going to maybe later run into a problem if you have too many cannons. It might be difficult to surround your castle if you have to wedge walls in between, right, where the cannons are, if you don't leave yourself enough room. So you have to carefully position your cannons. And then the best phase, firing the cannons. You shoot your cannons at the other people's castle walls. And so you want to do it. You don't want to do what they've done on the left, where they left a nice big gap there. You want to do what they've done on the bottom. Leave one hole, right? Make a little checkerboard for them, so they have to put in lots of little tiny pieces that won't fit, and they can't surround their castle. And you repeat this process with the 3 phases: walls, build cannons, shoot cannons, in a direct versus head-to-head game. This is the only game like this, right? Which is why it gets into this panel. if you could somehow remake this with like internet multiplayer and let me like use my mouse wheel to rotate the pieces and click to put them down. It might be too easy, but it would still be amazing. I love Rampart and the voice lines in the game where the guy says, good job, Blue Commander. It's like, that's awesome. Jungle Speed. Who has played Jungle Speed? Not enough people have played Jungle Speed. Oh my God. So Jungle Speed, it's a pretty simple game. On your turn, with one hand, you flip over a card, and then the next person flips over a card. And you'll notice the cards have these devilish patterns on them. And what you're trying to do is you're looking out to see when the shapes on your card precisely match the shapes on someone else's card. And you'll notice here, you can see there's like a blue card that has 2 circles and like a square in the middle. And then you'll see the yellow card has 2 squares and a circle in the middle. Those don't match, but it's obviously trying to fool you. So a lot of people will jump and be like, oh, there's a match when there isn't. Or they won't notice there's a match when there is, and that's sort of the trick. When there is a match, you are supposed to grab the totem that is in the middle, right? And it's a who grabs it first kind of deal. Most versions of Jungle Speed that you find, that totem will be like a squishy, plasticky dog toy full of air for everyone's safety. But in real Jungle Speed, it is made of wood. And here we see that famed tabletop RPG designer Jason Morningstar was playing Jungle Speed, and someone's finger was rebroken during the game of Jungle Speed. This can happen. But yeah, Jungle Speed is an easy game to get. I think more recent versions are coming with the wooden totem again. I don't know why. I also recommend doing variations of Jungle Speed, such as put the totem in another room, and so that you go play Jungle Speed, and then when there's a match, you get up and run to go grab the totem. That's good if everyone is able to run, or hide it somewhere. I don't know. You can do lots of fun things with Jungle Speed, but, it's not Jungle Slow, I'll tell you that. Okay, all right. WarioWares, all right, okay. So now, people love WarioWares, but the thing is, for multiplayer, I only like the GameCube WarioWare. All the other non-GameCube WarioWares that have multiplayer, single player, they're all good. Multiplayer, only the GameCube one. The other one's in the garbage with their multiplayer. It's no good. And specifically, on the GameCube, the Turtle Mode. The Turtle Mode is the mode to play on the GameCube with your 3 other friends. And the way the Turtle Mode works that makes it unique is, obviously, you play a WarioWare microgame, like you do. And whoever wins at the microgame, good for them. The people who lose at the micro game, they get a turtle under them. And then everyone must balance on their pile of turtles in order to stay in the game. So actually, you could lose a whole bunch of WarioWare and be really bad at it, and then balance on your turtles and stay in the game. And the last person sitting on their turtles is the winner. So this sort of slight abstraction where losing doesn't make you lose, it just makes your status more precarious, is really interesting. And it lets people, have more fun even if they're terrible at the WarioWare part, as long as you can be good at the turtle part. The other fun thing is that, okay, maybe you did die. You got 10 turtles, or I don't think it gets up to 10, but like 5 turtles and you lost. You are not out of the game yet. You can now, as a turtle that you have been transformed into, bite other people's turtle stacks to get them to fall down. All right? And this is the most purest, bestest versus WarioWare that exists. So if you want to play WarioWare with friends, get a GameCube or a Wii that's GameCube compatible, or another illegal method of some kind. All right. Tribes 2. All right, we used a Penny Arcade slide because we do this Penny Arcade Expo, but regardless, Tribes 2 was the best game until they messed it up. Right? I said a bad word there, but I guess MAGFest is an all-ages panel. I checked. All right, whatever. Tribes 2 was a game that came out in like the year 2001, 2, something like that, and it lasted like less than a year. But during that time, it was amazing, right? An FPS with 2 teams, and with that level of technology back then, you could have like 64 players. I got enormous number of players per team, right? You had vehicles. There was the hover bike, the fighter jet, the transport, flying transport, the tank. and the bomber. So there's a lot of vehicles you could get in this game. You could customize all sorts of ridiculous equipment. There were like bombs that you could put on the ground and sensors and auto turrets, just like this super wide array of like equipment that you could get, and you just configured what you wanted, and you went into a little station and it just reconfigured you, and it was like, there you go, now you have all the stuff you asked for, go use it somehow on this enormous battlefield. And you could play it with like a 56K modem, and it would still work. I played this for like a summer with a 56K modem, and the ping was only like 100 something, and it worked great. Why did this game, perhaps the greatest team FPS ever, fail so quickly? There were two crucial mistakes that were related to each other. Mistake number one, the forums for the game, the community for the game, was built into the game. When you logged into the game, there would be tabs like play the game, check out your guild and your teammates, and then forums. Talk to all the other people who play this game on a message board, right in the game itself. And could they moderate that well? No, obviously not. So, what they did do is the second mistake is that they had those forums in the game and they looked at them even though they weren't moderating them, and they listened to them. Big mistake. So this game, it came out and everyone was having a grand old time, and then they patched it, and then they patched it again, and then they patched it again, and they kept changing it, and they kept changing the rules, and they kept changing the way the vehicles worked, and they made the game worse, and they made the game harder to follow, and then people got bored and they stopped playing. And then they said, oh crap, no one's playing the game anymore. Everyone's make mods, and everyone's playing mods of the game, but because people don't want to download mods, there's less players overall. And then they said, well, I guess no one's playing our game and we're done. We're not going to update anymore. We don't got any money left. Let's make one big patch that resets it to its correct again. But then no one was playing. And because they had that centralized technology where they had like this central server with the forums and all that stuff going on, you couldn't just like boot this up like Quake and play on a LAN with your friends very easily, right? Or set up a server very easily. It depended on that central server with the forums and the clans and all that other stuff, and that made it very technologically difficult for fans of the game to continue playing it today if they really wanted to. It is possible. It is very difficult. It is not worth the effort. My co-host told me a story. He tried to go and play it with some people, and he found a Discord where people were playing it, and those people were bad people, so he didn't play Tribes 2. So it's a really sad story about Tribes 2, but if you go back in time and look at games media at the time that this game came out, you will see lots and lots and lots of people posting about Tribes 2, and that will give you an idea of how big a deal it was. And also people have tried to remake this game. There's like Tribes Ascend and all kinds of other things, and none of them have succeeded very much, I think because it's clear people like these days like gambling games and don't like skill games. So there you go. All right, this is the game we mention most in all our panels these days, but it's really not just one game. It's a whole series of games called the 18XX series. These games look like, oh no, this is for the scary grognard board game people. This isn't for me. This isn't a MAGFest kind of game. I guarantee you there isn't a single copy of an 18XX game anywhere at MAGFest. This is probably the only place to hear about them at MAGFest is at our panels. These games are not as scary as they look. Right? These games, the train games that are all nerdy and for the old bearded guys who love trains and going out with their binoculars watching trains go by, they look scary because the graphic design is bad. If you can play, any of the other major sort of Euro-y games, like, you can play these games as well. You just have to do a little bit of math. It's not that hard, I promise you. And the thing about these games that is so exciting and unique is that they're a double-layered game. There's an inside game and an outside game. And this is unique amongst most board games. Board games that have this mechanic usually borrowed it from these games. And the way it works is the inside game is the train companies. These train companies are running trains, laying down tracks, all the things you would expect if you were playing Ticket to Ride or Railroad Tycoon or something like that. The outside game is you're buying stocks in trade companies. The winner of the game is whoever wins the stock game, the outside game, right? The inside game doesn't really matter so much. It's just a machine that spits money out into the outside game. So you think, oh, there's a green train company like the IC, and it's like, yeah, whoever runs that during the train part is whoever has the most shares in it. It's not like yours. You don't own it. I mean, you might be the president of it currently because you have the most shares, so you take its turn, but maybe later you sell all the shares and someone else buys them, and now they have to run that company. It's like an inside game, outside game. Right? So there isn't another game that you can play where you'll get the same sort of unique feeling that goes on here. This is the one we recommend to start with because it is the most forgiving. The other 18X games might have simpler rules to an extent, but you will just go bankrupt and the game will end immediately because they're very hard if you don't know what you're doing. But this one, you might not win, but at least you won't go bankrupt and lose. And the best part is there is a website, 18xx.games. If you go to this website, they got the tutorials, they got the other nerds playing these. It's free with no ads. You just play on a website. There it is. They have a huge library of all the different train games to choose from, and you can play asynchronously. So it's like, yeah, you take your turn, and then like it emails you or sends you a Discord message when it's your turn again, and you come back. So you don't need to sit there for hours and hours to play the game. And the computer does so much of the work for you. It'll even like do auto routing for you. So even if you play in real time with all your friends sitting around a computer or everyone at their computers, it'll take a quarter of the time it would take if you played on the table with actual pieces. And we love the train games. Okay, Quake 2, I guess you couldn't play Quake 2 here at MAGFest, at least not easily, but there was Quake 1 in the library area, or the museum zone, right? They had the Doom and then the Quake 1. Quake 2 is almost slightly better than Quake 1. It's a little faster. It's a little more exciting. The mods for Quake 2, like your lithium deathmatch, they introduced like your grappling hooks and all sorts of other things. If you were going to play the straight-up deathmatch, right, with just who gets the most frags with a time limit or a frag limit or whatever, Quake 2 is probably still the one because after Quake 2, Quake 3 was a little slower, a little weirder, and then after that, people started to venture into the Counter-Strike realm. It was no longer about the straight-up deathmatch. It was about the capture the flag. It was about something else. And so there hasn't really been a game since that I think has really, been like, let's focus on making deathmatch the best it could be since Quake 2. And thankfully, right, they have done something amazing. They have updated this game recently. So it will just run normally on your modern computer. You can just go buy it on Steam for a few dollars, Quake 1 and Quake 2. Like, look at the date on this official update, right? October 9th, 2023. I think there's been another update since then. I don't remember, since we've made these slides. But it's like, yeah, more game companies, please update your old games. How about Tribes 2? That would be a good one. Okay. Wizard. You can play this with a normal deck of playing cards as long as you somehow get 8 jokers that match on the back. We like to play with this deck for obvious reasons. The funky art. And, it says Z for wizard because it's a German deck, so it's Zauberer. I guess I might not pronounce that correctly. Maybe the friend from Germany. Was I good? Are they still here? Good enough, yeah. The other one is there's 4 Zauberers and there's 4 Nars. So it's a 52 plus 8, so you get a 60-card deck. And because you have a 60-card deck, you can play evenly. You can deal the deck out evenly between 2 to 6 players, right? Because 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 all divide into 60 evenly. And this is a trick-taking game, right? Like hearts, spades, euchre, whist, any of those kind of games. This is that kind of game. It also goes by the name of Oh Hell. I don't know if anyone's family plays Oh Hell. This is the same game as Oh Hell, only with fun wizards, right? And fantasy biz going on if you buy this deck. And this is the game, I think, of all trick-taking games that has, like, the most replay value. And, there's some that have, like, really, I play a lot of trick-taking games, and they seem to all have, like, a quirky, interesting bit that's like, here's the thing that makes me unique. And, like, there was, what's the one with the cat? There's, like, a quantum cat one where, like, you don't know the suit of the cat until it comes out of the box or whatever. Cat in the box? Yeah. It's like, we played that game, and it was amazing and really clever. But after a few plays, it's like, we figured this out. Wizard, it's just so fundamental, right, in the trick-taking, so that it's, A, accessible to people who've never done a trick-taking game before, because it's still simple, but people who've played a lot of trick-taking games, you don't get tired of it, because the fundamentals are so strong, and also the social aspect of playing this game around a table with a bunch of people, it's the kind of game where you could have, like, a wizard night instead of a poker night and not get tired without changing any games. So either buy 2 identical normal playing card decks or find this, wizard deck somewhere. It's not expensive. And play wizard/oh hell with your friends. I recommend it. Okay, how much time? We're almost... Okay, timing's good. Okay. Any mud. I played a mud. If you don't know, a mud is just an MMO made of text. That's all it is. And before there were MMOs, like your EverQuest, I guess, was the first one. EverQuest was basically just a mud with some pictures, right? And then World of Warcraft was really when they finally got away from, okay, it's actually a different thing now, kind of, because it's not, you have to push buttons with timing and such. So it's an MMO with pictures. MMO with text only. You move, like north, west, right? You're typing in what direction you're going to move. There's a monster. You say, I attack, right? Equip, sword, all those sorts of commands. Inventory, list your inventory out. I played these in high school. There was one I played in high school, and I played it so much, and I'm very thankful that I played it very much, because A, that was free, and B, that prevented me from getting devoured by MMOs later in life, because I said, I've done this before. I don't have to do it again. If I had not played a mud, I would have ended up probably playing World of Warcraft and failing college, or who knows what would have happened. So mud still exists, right? There's obviously not as many as there used to be, but playing a mud will teach you some computer skills, because you'll have to figure out how to connect to this game and install like Telnet or something. And so that's very useful in life, because computers control every aspect of our lives. It will also be useful to you because you'll see, that's where all these things that I take for granted in other games come from. Muds did them first, right? I understand now, right, that where the gaming history lineage is. And maybe, if you're extremely lucky, the people in that mud might be good people, right? Because it takes a certain kind of person to be in there, either really bad or really good. There's not a lot in between. So if you find the right mud with the really good people, you might find a friend, hopefully. Yeah, MUD stands for multi-user dungeon, by the way. Right? It's kind of... There's other ones like mushes, mucks, moos. Don't worry about that. Okay. All right, Nidhogg. Okay, people know. Okay. We can see. Games people don't know. Oh, games people have heard of. Yeah. Okay. Nidhogg is a game that is quite unique in many ways. In our other panel, we discussed how Nidhogg is similar to ice hockey, which is our favorite sport to watch. In which you are trying to basically push through several zones and reach a scoring area. But in your push through zones, right, you get kind of game, usually those are team-based games, your soccers, your ice hockeys. Nidhogg is the one-on-one push through zones game. Even Rocket League has 3-on-3, right? Nidhogg is one-on-one. And rather than trying to get a ball and control the ball, you are instead doing awesome, cool-looking sword fighting with pixel people, which is a whole lot of fun. So yeah, Nidhogg, I think when it hit the scene was a big deal. Now I feel like it's sort of been forgotten, but maybe not forgotten. How many people, because you go online and you try to play Nidhogg and there'll be no one playing it. But yet the whole room at MAGFest on Sunday went, yeah. So how come you people aren't going home turning on Nidhogg to see if someone's playing, okay? I'm waiting for you. Okay, Dune. Yeah. I played this game. I tried to read Dune books in middle school. I didn't like them. And then I played this game, and then I tried to read Dune books again, and now they're okay. And I saw some Dune movies. They're okay too, I guess. But yeah, whether you like Dune or not, this is truly a unique kind of game. I bought this old 70s edition on eBay way back in the 2000s. But thankfully, you don't have to do that because this game has been reprinted, and there's also other Dune games. But we're specifically talking about this game and the remakes thereof, just called Dune. And the way this game works is it's basically Risk, right? You got little chits on the map, and you try to fight, and there's these black dots on the map. The old version isn't very well designed, graphically speaking, but aesthetically, A+. And you want to control 3 of the 5 dots, and then you just win the game. The thing that's exciting about this game that I think other games don't get right is, think about a game like, StarCraft, right? You got your Protoss, who are slow but strong. You got your Terrans, who are kind of even. And you got your Zerg, who are weak but fast and many, right? And it's like, okay, but they're all kind of equal, and no one's really too OP or too extreme, right? You look at your fighting games with all sorts of different characters, and yeah, some of the characters are stronger, right? They never really balance all of them. There's always some garbage characters that can't do anything. But nobody's really too OP. right? They usually ban those characters when they're too OP, at least in the tournaments. In Dune, you pick up and you say, all right, I'm going to be the Bene Gesserit this game. All right, we'll see what they do. All right, and it's the first thing is like, okay, at the start of the game, predict who will win and on what turn they will win. If your prediction is correct, you win instead. Okay? And it's like, okay, well, that's really OP because this game's only going to last like single-digit number of turns. And I could actually, while I'm playing, I could try to either win myself. I can still just win normally, or I can try to help and make sure someone else wins on that turn. And they will be okay with it. Or will they think, should I let this person help me win on this turn? I don't know. Right? And okay, well, they're OP because they're the Bene Gesserit. That makes sense. I've read a Dune book or two. We know that they run stuff here. All right, let's look at the guild. Anytime anyone spends money on anything, you get the money instead. It's like everyone in this game, and the Harkonnen, it's like, yeah, everyone has treachery cards. You have like twice as many treachery cards as everyone else. Just a whole fistful of cards. You draw more, you get more. It's just amazing. Every single the 6 choices of factions, and all of them are OP. It's okay because everyone's OP, right? Everyone is OP at the same time, and that is still even. Rather than trying to make your game balanced and fair by making everyone milquetoast, it's balanced and fair by having 6 Supermans fight each other, okay? And so when you play the game, it feels great because you're so strong. You have all these amazing powers. You're like, yeah, deal with this. And it's like, oh, they also have, right? I recommend Dune. Okay, nerds, who likes a Klondike Solitaire? Yeah, all right. So imagine playing a Klondike Solitaire, but everyone's playing a Klondike Solitaire. And instead of having just 4 piles that are your piles, there's that middle row is the shared piles, right? That you're trying. So you can play this normally. Just get a deck of cards for each person. Everyone shuffles their deck of cards, deals out a nerds, and just go. And it's like you're trying to play solitaire as fast as you can. And it's like in the middle, let's say there's like a 5 of clubs, and you have a 6 of clubs, and you're like, oh, 6 of clubs added to, and someone gets there before you. Oops, yeah, you got to pull it back. All right. So basically what happened is during the dark times, Zachtronics, the company that makes lots of programming-based video games, they were playing a lot of nerds in their area, and they said, hey, we all went home. We can't really play nerds at the office anymore. Let's make a digital nerds. So they made a digital nerds, and you can just get it on Steam and play nerds with your mouse, and it actually works really well. And the best part of the game is that when everyone pushes start, it plays this little song. I have it on my phone, and I use it if I have to play nerds in person. I'll play a little song. I'm not going to play it right now. I'll play it for you later if you ask, I guess. Or you can just buy the game. And then you play the song, and when the song finishes, everyone goes, nerds, and you start playing. And yeah, the idea is that you're trying to play solitaire, but you're not trying to clear out your whole deck. You start with this little nerds pile, which is this pile here. And when you clear out your nerds pile, then you can basically at any time, as long as that pile's empty, you can say nerds, and that's when the game ends. So you can maybe try to score a few more points afterwards if you think you're way ahead, or if you think someone else is about to get nerds, you can call nerds faster to beat them points-wise. If you want solitaire, but you want to have a friend, right? Don't play solitaire next to each other. Play nerds instead. All right, Scorched Earth. Oh, people, they've got the old people in the house. So there's a whole lot of games out there where you choose your angle and you choose the power, and then you fire the cannonball and you take turns trying to hit each other, right? Like your worms, all right? Scorched Earth, what is the mother of all games for MS-DOS. This was the one of all those games that tried to have that same mechanic. This was the one. Every round you get some money. You can use the money to buy some funky bombs or some mervs or some whatever. And the graphics, amazing. Look at those. Right? State of the art, even today, holds up perfectly. Right? If you're going to play any kind of worms kind of game, right, this is the one. I don't know why nobody has just made like Scorched Earth 2. They've just been satisfied to leave this as is. It's even fun to play single player because of the economic aspect. Okay. All right. So there's a lot of weird dating sims out there, right? And there's a lot of visual novels these days, and they got all kinds of content of various kinds. Tokimeki Memorial doesn't have much or any really of that content that may be, good or bad depending on your point of view. But this game does a unique thing amongst the sort of, visual novelty games, in that it is also a high school simulator. It is a Japanese high school simulator of every day of Japanese high school from freshman year, all 3 years of Japanese high school. Every single day, what are you going to do today? Are you going to study? Are you going to go to work out in the gym? Are you going to go to the club that you're a member of and do something with them? What are you going to try to call someone and ask them out on a date? You're just going to sleep at home and play video games? What are you going to do every single day? You have to choose. Your stats change accordingly, your relations. And they did all this on like a Super Nintendo, right? It's quite amazing. Even though if you can't read Japanese, look, nerds made translations for you. How great is that? I would recommend, actually, this is the Super Nintendo version that is pictured. I would recommend the PlayStation 1 version. The PlayStation 1 version is quite amazing, actually, for such an old game. You can actually, spell out your name if you can use the Japanese alphabet, and then it will read your name out loud, like it does text-to-speech in that game. It's really, it's shocking how the technology for this game was quite ahead of its time. And also, it was super fun because we would play this game not having enough people who could read it and not having a translation back in the day. One person would sort of half poorly translate it, and we would collectively decide what to do, and that would make for a good, few hours of entertainment. So, maybe you're thinking, you look at all those visual novel dating sim kind of people, and you're like, I don't want to go anywhere near any of that stuff, right? Find this one. It's like one of the oldest ones. It might even be the oldest one. I don't know the history that much, but this is the one I encountered first, and is worth experiencing for yourself. Okay. So, people, right? You play your TTRPGs, and yet, for some reason, D&D is the one that people are all playing. Or maybe they're not playing D&D, they're playing like Pathfinder, but Pathfinder is essentially the same game as D&D. It's all this, I'm playing a different edition of D&D, or they're the same game. They're just a tactical combat miniatures fighting game, and then the role-playing is just left up to you, right? You do whatever role-playing you want. We're not even going to really mention the role-playing in the book. The book is all about just this tactical miniatures combat that happens. And so all those games end up being kind of the same, and that's how people end up viewing tabletop role-playing games. And then those are the only tabletop role-playing games that most people play, and most people culturally think that that's what TTRPGs are. And then you sell out Madison Square Garden, having people watch you play that game. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. All right? But there is a whole world. Right? Imagine if everyone was only playing Mario and they thought every video game was like a platformer. That's what is going on in the TTRPG world. It's out of control. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of indie TTRPGs that are nothing like D&D. They're not even remotely close. There's not there may not be dice rolling, there may not be combat, there may not be violence, right? It is rules to help you role play with your friends. It comes in every shape and size for every kind of story that you might want to tell. I saw a new one this morning that was, so you're all ship's computers. And everyone role plays as the computer of an interstellar spaceship, right? And it has nothing to do with fighting and shooting and miniatures on a board, right? And it was like one page of text. But you know what? That would entertain us for like a whole afternoon probably. So, and that's just a random one. Lady Blackbird we have here is a great suggestion of a good one to start with. I haven't played this one in a super long time. But basically the way this one works is you're role-playing, and then you get into a situation and you're like, this reminds me of the time when, and you make up something that happened, right? Because you don't know anything. You start like in media res in the middle of the action, and you build this backstory as you go along, and then that memory of that time when becomes relevant to the current conflict and helps you resolve a current situation. And you just keep doing this. And even you could play this game over and over with different people, different situations, and it would be exciting every time. And that's just one example. There are thousands of them. Go on your itch.io, go to your RPG drive-through wherever, or IPR, Indie Press Revolution. Play something besides D&D, right? If someone was only playing Mario, it's like, you'd be like, please play another video game, please. There's more out there. All right, Descent. I got 5 minutes left. Am I gonna make it? I don't know. Who cares? This is the first game that made me a little nauseous, but I got over it in 5 minutes. It's basically just sort of like Doom, but you're in a spaceship, and you can move like this, and you can move like this, and this, because you're not standing on the ground. You're a spaceship, so you can move every different which way. And we still don't have these days a lot of games that let you move every which way like that, which makes Descent, Descent 2, Descent 3, Free Space still somewhat unique, even in the current year. Dig of Doug. If you're gonna play an old arcade game, this is the one that really gets us going. We like the music, we like the Figars and the Pukas. I think it's got more replay value than say the Pac-Mans. Right? It's not. I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna move fast. All right, air hockey. The thing you can, if you go to the arcade and you play air hockey, it'll never become a waste of money. It's not going to try to trick you and try to, there's no tickets involved. It's not going to try to scam you or anything like skee ball, right? It's just you and your friend playing against each other in a nice, friendly sport. Don't use that air hockey table. Those are the bad ones. You want to find a photon table? Those are the good ones. Mm-hmm. This game, I don't know why. We're still waiting for Mario Maker 3. I'm hoping it comes out on Switch 2, but of all the games on the Switch, this is the one that won't die, right? It's because it has the maker aspect, and there are enough people in the world who are still Mario making out there. There's a guy I watch on Twitch who's second in the world. He's playing Endless Expert mode, and he reached 120,000 levels played. And he doesn't, you'd think he would see more repeats. No, he sees maybe a repeat once in a while, right? It's this game is out of control. Maybe they think, oh, we don't need Mario Maker 3 because everyone's still happy with Mario Maker 2. It's no, please make Mario Maker 3. But yeah, it's you can see, I watch this game, and even though it's just a platformer, I'm still seeing people come up with new ideas and new inventions of things that you can do in levels, and it can help me understand, oh, wow, if you're going to make a game or you look at other games, this is like a fountain where one game can just keep spitting out new ideas, right? Whereas normally to get new ideas, you'd have to go look at a wide variety of games. If you just sit there and play Mario Maker levels, you will just keep getting new ideas constantly. All right, Farsh Fish. So there's this guy, Friedman Fries. He's made a lot of games, the ones that come in green boxes. He's the guy with green hair. And he's got Power Grid, which actually Power Grid is called in German Funken something. Sorry, again, German person. He's also got Fortune and Fear and Flee, and all his games start with the letter F because his name is Friedman Fries. And of his games, Fresh Fish is the most unique board game that he has played, that we like to play. You're trying to make the shortest path between your van and the shack that is going to sell the food that your van supplies. It's really interesting. I haven't played another game quite like this. I don't know if you can find it somewhere, but good luck. All right. So Bionic Commando was an amazing game for the NES if you haven't played it, but what was really notable was that they remade this game in 2000-something, and the remake, basically all the HD remakes you see today, which are like a plague among us, or maybe a really good thing, depending on your point of view, this was the first one, basically. Right? This was the first time someone was HD remake, and it was a huge hit, and that is what spurred on the torrent of other HD remakes. They did an amazing job. It's basically the same game with better graphics, better controls, the same soundtrack, but pumped up 10,000 times to be better, but still not the same. It's great. So you could play, I would recommend playing a little bit of NES Bionic Commando, one level, because it's going to be really hard. You're not going to beat it. And then play Bionic Commando Rearmed. You will beat that because the controls are easier. It's amazing. Okay, Mafia with the real rules. People don't play this with the real rules. The real rules of this game are, do I have time to explain them? Maybe not. But regardless, you're playing this wrong. Go look up online what the real rules are and play it properly, please. If you play it properly, the way it works is the Mafia cannot communicate with each other during the nighttime, and so they have to communicate with each other during the day while everyone is looking. So you have to signal to the other Mafia people because you have to vote unanimously on who to kill at night. So now you can say, I saw Joey Jojo blinking at Sally Susu over there, right? And then now you actually have evidence of which to accuse people instead of just vibes, and that makes it a decent game, right? Don't play it the way normal people play it. Okay. This is a text adventure game, but you play it in real life with a person pretending to be the computer. I would look it up. And this is Monopoly that only takes 30 minutes, so it stops before it's not fun anymore. Okay, and with 30 seconds left, I have successfully completed my obligation. Okay. See MAGFest. We somehow All right. These were the panels you missed at the rest of MAGFest. Or maybe you didn't miss them. Get home safely. Bring the MAGFest energy home with you. Don't go home with a Sunday MAGFest. Go home with a Colossus roar, all right?